it's an amazing realization that who you essentially are is you're invisible. The moment you move to thoughts, nobody knows, scientists don't really know what a thought is. What is a thought? Where does it live in you? Where does it live in you? That's an interesting thing. Does it have now, mainstream science is still largely totally materialistic, which means it says that matter is all that exists and everything is matter. And it says that consciousness is a byproduct, or they say epiphenomenon, in other words, a byproduct of the human brain in some way. This is one could talk about this for a long time. I don't want to go this way and entertain you in that direction. It is more important, experiential, I want this to be an experiential gathering rather than an intellectual gathering. But ask yourself the question, what is a thought? Where does it live? All your memories. I suggest, for example, the memory of, please go ahead, the memory of your deceased grandmother, for example, or the memory of you when you were a child. When you were a child, you lived in a particular place, maybe you had your own room, and you can suddenly recollect many details of the room that you had when you were a child, even how the doorknob felt when you opened the door, the carpet, the furniture, and you can remember your grandmother or your first teacher when you first started school, the teacher you had then, and you can remember, okay, now you hadn't perhaps thought of that first grade teacher in several years, but now that I mention it, suddenly there he or she pops up. Where and in what form did this first teacher of yours, or your grandmother, or the memory of the room that you lived in when you were 6 years old, and of course there are hundreds of thousands of memories like that, but where did this live in you? In what form was it? If it's molecules and atoms in your brain that somehow certain atoms represent your grandmother and other things represent other molecules, represent other things. The weird thing is, if a surgeon opens up your brain, he will not find any of your memories. He will not find you. That's a strange thing. He finds things, but not you. He cannot find, because you do not exist on a physical level ultimately, only as a physical body. But the depth of you as who you are, even who you are as a person, which is still limited, even that, just the human, you don't exist as in the physical realm, really. I don't know where you exist, perhaps in the cloud and then you download the memory from the cloud. So every thought is invisible. But of course, it uses the brain in order to express itself. Emotion too, the emotion itself is not visible, but it can manifest, of course, with physical symptoms in the body. But in itself, it's an energy field, a non-physical energy field. So the entire structure of the psychic structure of you is essentially invisible. This is why in the famous little book, The Little Prince, I think it was, famous classic, it says, what is essential is invisible to the eye, this eye, which means it means all the other senses too. What is essential is not visible to the senses. So you are essentially invisible. You are not ultimate. And the way I see it A thought does not even exist in this dimension. That's all. You are multidimensional. You exist as a thought-made entity, but it's no longer, it's associated with the physical realm, but it is not confined to the physical realm. Your thoughts are invisible. Your whole sense of who you are is invisible. Nobody could find it by looking for you in the physical realm. You're not there. And it's an amazing realization that who you essentially are is you're invisible. All the thoughts that go through your head, they are not visible to the senses. Interesting. So, and that's only the surface part of you, even there. Let's go back to the analogy of the ocean. You have the ocean. On the surface of the ocean, there are waves and ripples. Now, in this analogy, let's say every little ripple or wave believes itself to be an independent entity, disconnected from other ripples. It only knows itself as a ripple because it doesn't know its own depth. And every wave only knows itself as a wave. Wave could be perhaps VIPs. If you own a private jet, you're a wave. And if you don't, then you're a ripple. But the wave and the ripple are all short-lived. Their destiny is the same. The body, one day the body is here, you're somebody, the next day you're nobody. Whether you're a wave or a ripple, doesn't matter. So now this ripple, of course, feels uneasy on the surface of the ocean because its sense of identity is very limited, and it feels sometimes threatened by other ripples, or it wants to use other ripples to associate with in order to become a bigger ripple. And sometimes temporarily that works, but not for very long. And then you're looking for yourself on the horizontal realm. Where can I be a more complete ripple? Can you help me be a more complete ripple? No. Or I need you. If we come together, we can be a big ripple. And nothing really works. In one moment, the ripple goes to a talk, and and it hears this weird analogy, and then says, but who are you beyond the body of you as the person, the invisible you? Can you become aware of the invisible you, which is first of all, it's the person that consists of thoughts and emotions, but that's already a little bit beyond the surface of the ocean. You go a little bit into the ocean, and there you exist as a person. And there's all your emotions and your thoughts and your identity as a human. There you are. Already you've become aware of that. And that's still very limited. And that is sustained by incessant thinking machine, the conditioned mind it sustains the personal selfhood, self-identity. That's amazing. And so the key is to realizing, go deeper and sense your connectedness with the ocean. Ocean in this analogy means consciousness, universal consciousness that pervades the entire universe, the intelligence that underlies all phenomenal existence, the intelligence behind it all, the organizing principle behind the arising of forms, all forms, a vast intelligence that exists, not exist as such, but it gives rise to existence. The vast intelligence is being, it doesn't exist because everything that exists in this dimension.